All right, guys, this week's guest is Don Muzzy. Don Muzzy is a lineman and lead instructor for the Quanta Electrical Line Worker program held at the Lazy Q. I've known Don for a couple of years now. I had the privilege of working with him as an instructor at the Lazy Q. He's a great guy. Really enjoyed this conversation. I know you're going to get a ton of value out of it. Whether you're new to the industry or a experienced lineman, there's something in this episode for you. So let's jump right into it with Don Muzzy. Don Muzzy, welcome to Powerline Podcast.
Thank you.
Stoked. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. It's been a little while, dude.
Yeah, it's been a long while.
I like to start these episodes by just like getting to know the guests a little bit. So let's chat a little bit about your past. Like, where are you from?
From North Dakota originally. Spent a lot of my career working in Minnesota, up in Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. Spent a lot of my career up there.
What's growing up in the Dakotas like?
I tell you what, it was great growing up there. Everything you wanted to do. I mean, we used to leave the doors wide open at night, windows open. You never had to worry about crime. Still similar to that to this day. You want to hunt, fish, anything you want to do up there, it was there for you. So I enjoy it. That's why I lived down in the Twin Cities in Minnesota for quite a few years, and that's the first chance I got back to move back to North Dakota. I moved back to North Dakota.
So like lots of outdoor activities, like outdoors are things to do.
Correct.
What did you get into hunting?
I got into hunting about age of 15. Started hunting ducks and geese. We were in the Central Flyway, so during the fall it was just ducks and geese everywhere. So that's what I grew up. Started hunting, and I got into deer hunting, and after that I was hooked. Been doing it the rest of my life.
Hunting my ancestors, the geese, hey?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
We're not allowed to touch geese.
Are you?
No.
Oh no, we down in North Dakota in the States. That's
good, because we hate them.
Oh, they're
a pain in the ass.
They wreck
especially
so
on
much
beaches.
stuff. Yeah, all the goose shit and all that. Yeah.
What'd your parents do?
My dad ran a grain elevator for a number of years. He also drove truck for quite a few years. My mom was a nurse, became a nurse after I graduated high school. And she went to college when I was a senior because she knew I was going to get out of the house. I was the last. So she went to nursing school, and after that she became a nurse, and she was a nurse until she retired, I think, at age of 55.
Dang.
Yep.
Sweet. That's a good age to retire.
Yeah.
You're coming up on that, hey?
Oh yeah, a few more years if I make it to them.
So growing up, like what was big in school? Were you big in sports or?
Oh, most definitely football. Played a couple of years of basketball. I never liked basketball, so I did track and football. That's all I did.
Track? What in track?
Sprint.
Really?
Sprinting through the javelin.
Damn.
Yeah.
Javelin.
Yep.
Were you good at it?
It wasn't bad.
Cool.
I'm not gonna say it was great, but.
Did you do any sorts of like trade related stuff in school, or like when did trade work kind of come about?
I didn't do a lot. I took a lot of advanced classes throughout high school. I always wanted to go to college. I wanted to become an electrical engineer. And my senior year, I just got to the point where I didn't want to do any more school. I didn't even want to think about doing any more school. And so when everybody was applying for colleges, I didn't apply for any. And I kept telling my parents I did. I never did. And all my buddies were getting ready to go to college, and here I was still sitting at home. And thank the good Lord, my parents, they knew what was best for me at that time. They gave me an ultimatum I could still live at home, but I had to find a job.
Yep.
So I went and got a job, went up to a gas company in Devil's Lake, and I got hired on as a laborer. And during freeze up, because it gets really cold, November, December, so everybody gets pretty much laid off. I got laid off, and then they hired me back in April, May, and I went back to work. And the next year, I got hired on as a pipe fitter and a equipment operator. So I did that for couple years, like 3 years, I think I did it. And I realized that was for me, being outside, not going to school, any of that. And then I got laid off. And over Christmas, a good friend of mine, we hadn't seen him. He had left after high school, and he came back over the Christmas holidays. And he was, we were out having fun, partying, and he showed me the check. He had flown into Fargo, bought a brand new pickup, wrote a check for it, and he started talking to me about being a lineman. I didn't know what a lineman was, had no clue. But he said I can make a lot of money. So I went down to the local. There was Bismarck State College right there in Bismarck. They have a line school. I went down there and I applied, and they said it was a 2-year waiting period. Well, I thought, I'll jump into welding because I enjoyed welding. So I went down there, signed up for the welding program. That was a 2-year. And in the meantime, I decided, I'm going to go to school. So I took a semester at college, and I went back to work. And while I was working, I went home one afternoon for dinner, or for lunch, and I got a phone call, and it was Bismarck State. They were going down the waiting list, calling people to come to line school right then and there.
Dang.
And I happened to be home at that time, and I said, what do I need to do? And they said, $75 and come to line school. And I left my job and went right down and put my $75. 2 weeks later, I'm in line school.
Different times.
Yeah. 3 weeks into it, I knew right then and there that was the job I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I couldn't imagine.
What part of it was that you really liked?
It was the climbing, just being outside, climbing, the work. And I went with a group we started with 60 students, and it was the camaraderie of the class that we were all going to go do this, and we're going to get to work on crews and be outside and working at heights and just doing a job that normal people wouldn't even think about doing. And it was the adrenaline, crawling up, working on energized power lines. The thought of it was adrenaline, climbing, starting out at 45 feet, climbing poles and going higher, the possibilities, maybe working on some steel structures and all that. I mean, that's what caught me. And after that, it was...
How long was line school?
It was a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what did that puts you out into an apprenticeship after that?
No.
Or you still had to beat down doors to
I
get in?
still had to beat down doors. I came through kind of at a bad time. Deregulation was kind of going around. A lot of companies weren't hiring. A lot of places weren't hiring. When I graduated, I sent out 177 resumes to everywhere in the United States, and I got one reply, and they said, we'll keep your your resume on file for 1 year. So I found out about a construction company in Minnesota, and I got hired, and I went to work for them. And I spent 3 years working for a small non-union construction company in Minnesota.
So talk about this and you probably get it a lot too, just with the position you're in that we'll talk about after, but what's your advice for people? Because I get a question constantly, like your advice for those young guys. I talk about persistence a lot. Just be persistent. Just keep working at it and be willing to travel, like all those sorts of things. But you got anything different that you could give for
dedication?
Advice? Yeah.
You got to be dedicated to this. This is inherently a tough trade. Not tough just in the work. It's tough personal because you are traveling. You're away from home. Expect to be away from home. But you got to be dedicated to it. You got to, in the beginning, you got to put the work first. You got to go where they tell you. You got to do what they tell you. I came through older school, right at the edge of where old school was, where these guys were they could still push you around and treat you like utter crap. But it was a way that they tested you to see if you were right for the trade, then in their thinking. And, I did a lot of crap work. You're an apprentice. You're lower than low, and they treated you as such. And there were days, weeks, months, I didn't think I was going to make it through, that I was thinking about quitting, giving up. But spite can get you a long way, so can hate, because these guys were never going to push me out of the trade. I was going to prove all these guys wrong. And here I am, 29.
That's interesting because, how do you deal with that now, being in the position you're in, training this generation, knowing you came from one generation that was completely different, That's honestly one of the things I struggled with. Not struggled, just had to learn how to adapt to, was teaching the next generation differently than I was taught, because right or wrong, I was taught one way and it's different now.
I was very fortunate because as I came up through my career, I had a lot of good apprentices. I had a lot of good apprentices. I mean, I had some bad apprentices coming up that I trained, and when I became a foreman, I had a lot of good apprentices. I had a few bad apprentices then too, but it was working with that younger generation on a crew and seeing each year how they were different. So coming into a teaching position or an instructor position was a lot easier running a crew and how these guys were taught, because when I was apprentice, and I always said, I'm never going to talk to my apprentices or treat my apprentices like I was treated. Well, as I got older, I started taking more care into how to train an apprentice.
Sure.
And taking that time and not screaming and yelling at them and breaking everything down so they understood what we were doing. And that helped me now transitioning into the instructor position. It's still tough because these generation, as I get older, that generation keeps getting younger. It does get tough. It gets difficult because I can't relate with all the cell phones and the texting and the Snapchatting and all that stuff. I'm not into that. So I don't see the value of carrying my cell phone around with me all the time. And all these younger guys, they're addicted to those things, and it's tough. But now we use it as a tool. We can use it as a tool in teaching. Hey, look up this on your cell phone, or if they want to fact check me, I'm okay with that. You want to fact check me, but you better know the context of what on that article to what context of what I'm teaching, and we can talk about it. It's a nice discussion point now, but there's times there when I was a foreman and I had apprentices, or a journeyman, I had apprentices that trying to teach them, they test you. I mean, you're going to get mad, you're going to get upset, and you're going to do some screaming and yelling, but that's part of that they're going to have to face, because I had to face it. You had to face it. I mean, we weren't treated the best as apprentices from our journeyman or our foreman. And that's, I hate saying it, inherently, everybody has to experience that at some point in their career. I mean, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it makes us better. Yeah. It pushes out the ones that probably shouldn't be in this trade from the first place.
That's the way I always looked at it. I always get the opportunity to look at it from hindsight, and when I do look back at it, I go, okay, well, it made me who I am now, and I guess that wasn't so bad. But I know there's a lot in the middle there, and what happens in the middle is important, and it could go either direction depending on the person. But I look back at it and I go, like, it did make me stronger. Do I think it was the right thing sometimes? No, I don't think it was the right thing in a lot of cases that, you treat somebody like that. There's other ways. I guess there's other ways to get to that point, right? We try to, use other methods to get to that end result now that they could have used back then too, because it's still the same thing, right?
And inherently, we're going to treat, when we become journeymen, we're going to treat the apprentices the way we were treated. Because I know when I came out, when I became a journeyman, I treated my apprentices the way I was treated. And because now you're a journeyman. I mean, that's our ultimate goal, is to become a journeyman lineman.
Yeah.
I mean, we cut our teeth doing it. We eat, sleep, drink line work. I mean, if you're that interested in it, that's what you're going to do. You put everything you have into it, and you're raised one way or you're taught one way. That's the only way that you know. To change that, you got to think differently as to how you want to be treated in the trade when you become a journeyman and a foreman, how you're going to treat the next generation coming up behind you.
Sure.
That's what changed for me.
I was talking to Duke yesterday on the podcast about how he actually brought it up, and it was a good point, how it's a journeyman's responsibility to train it's a piece of their responsibility to train the next generation. And you and I have both seen it both ways, right? There's the journeymen out there that don't give a shit about the next generation, and then there's the journeymen out there that like, hey, come here, let me take you under my wing, let me show you. What's your thoughts on that?
Totally. You're correct on that. That I wish there was more that would take that training the next generation more seriously. But I guess it goes back to how they were treated as they came up. Because like I said, the ultimate goal is to become a journeyman. And once you become that journeyman, you want to be able to lord that over a lot of people. And we can't lord it over our foremen or other journeymen that have more experience than us. So inherently, what are we going to do? We're going to lord it over any type of apprentice and treat them. Is it right? No. Can we do better in the trade? Training our apprentices? Yes. And I think we need to, because I was out on a crew and the young guy told me he was always taught the how, never the why. And that resonated with me. We can all go build power lines. We can teach anybody to build a power line. But why are we not touching this wire to that? Or why are we not touching that? Why do we have to wear rubber gloves? Why do we have all these safety rules? Those are the whys.
The why takes the time too, right?
It takes the time. Mm-hmm. And I was taught a lot of the how, because a lot of my journeymen, and I was blessed as I moved up through my career, I was blessed to work for a lot of great journeyman linemen and a lot of great foremen. They took the time to nurture my career and help me be better in my career. And I got away from all that yelling and screaming at where you come to work and your foreman just screamed at you. I got away from that. And once I did, I realized the way I was treating people was wrong. And I didn't want to be that person. And I can remember back being an apprentice saying, I'll never be that person. And here I ended up turning to be that person. And it was a subtle change where I started taking care, because while I got into union and, being a union IBW member, our duty is to train the apprentices. And that really resonated with me. So I started treating my apprentices a lot different, so, and inherently made those apprentices, better linemen. And I keep in touch with a few of them over the years, or I've seen them where now they're journeymen, and they've actually come up and thanked me for being the guy that took the time to teach them the why and the how, and not screaming and yelling at them. Yeah. Because
it doesn't have the same effect anymore.
No.
Like, it really doesn't. Especially with this new generation of humans. Like, they don't take well to screaming and yelling. So I just don't think it's effective.
Correct. I totally agree. Do you want to be screamed at all day long? These kids don't need to put up with that. They can go off and do a bunch of other different things. Being told, talked to, treated like a human being. Yeah. I think inherently that's how we all want to be treated. They're going to stay in the trade a lot longer. But again, kind of old school me thinks, well, if you're not in the trade, it's probably the better for you. Somebody's making the decision
also don't
for
want
you.
To coddle them. They have a responsibility in this too. And I can make that real clear. Like, you got to show up as an apprentice, and you got to want to be there, and you got to understand that you're going to take some heat every now and then, and you got to be okay with messing up again and again and again and again. That's part of, and take it like it's failure. Everybody does it. It's like, don't get all sensitive about it. Like, it's going to happen.
And I think the generation, I don't want to say that they're more sensitive, but you kind of see it, that they are a tad bit more sensitive than the past. If you haven't grown up, anybody busting on you all the time, well, it's kind of, you're not used to that. And, it can be a pretty tough trade, especially when you get into a group of guys that you don't know.
Yeah.
You're there for the first time and you're getting to know them. Of course, they're going to bust on your balls for a while, but ultimately they're going to, if you can put up with it and take it and do your job and still do the work and do what's demanded of you, they're going to respect you. Yeah. They're going to accept you into that crew, and that was one of the things. Once I could show that I could take what they were giving out and still do my job and do it to the best of my ability, I was accepted into the crews. I never had an issue after that. And then when I became a journeyman, that's what I was looking for, is the kids that could take it and we could move forward with them. You can trust them, because in this trade, as you know, it's we're put in a lot of situations. You can put yourself in some serious situations that how are you going to react to? And if that helps, constantly yelling at somebody and it helps them where they're calm, where the situation needs calmness, hey, it works. I mean, different strokes for different folks, I guess.
That's when it comes down to knowing the person too, right? Knowing what they need at the right time. I guess they need a little angry bump now and then give them that angry, or whatever. They need to be brought aside and talked to like a human. But again, like, it's responsibility of both.
Correct.
And maybe that's why you're seeing a lot of journeymen today not wanting to deal with this generation, because of the differences there, the culture, like almost like a cultural difference in a sense, right? Journeymen came up one way, hard, yelling, screaming, that maybe they just don't have the tools themselves to deal with this new generation, so they just don't even want to try to deal with them because they're so different.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And if you haven't dealt with that, maybe it's best you're not.
Sure.
You know, let the foreman do it, or let somebody else do it. Let another crew do it, because in here we don't want to be wrong, especially when we're teaching young guys. We want to make sure that we're teaching them the right thing. You know, because we don't want to see any of them get hurt. Also, plus ourselves. You know, so, but it's different how I came up, because like I said, I came up old school, and that was the thing. You got yelled at from the time you got to work till you left work. And after a while, it was so commonplace that when I went to a place where they actually treated me, I was like, what the hell's wrong with these guys? What the hell are they thinking? Why are they not yelling at me? You know, am I doing something wrong, or am I going to get shipped off to the next crew? You know, I had to worry about that. But after a while, it was, you don't even think of it anymore. I mean, because you're so used to getting screamed and yelled at in this trade. And rightfully so. There was a lot of things. I didn't do everything right. I made a lot of mistakes.
That's why I said it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
There's just as much responsibility on the other end.
And I fucked off just as much as the next guy. I mean, I'm sitting over, when I should be working, I'm sitting over there BSing with my buddies, you know, laughing and joking around and playing pranks and stuff like that. So yeah, I can see why they were screaming at me.
Yeah.
You know, but there were times there that I probably didn't deserve it, because I should have been, or I was doing everything right, but because I was doing it right, they were screaming at me even more, you know, so kind of.
Yeah. Where'd your career take you?
So, like I said, I got out of Bismarck State College, the electrical line worker program, and I went straight into Minnesota. And basically, I stayed in Minnesota for the rest of my career. Worked at a non-union place for about 3 years, and then I jumped over to another non-union, and then I ended up going to a little town outside the Twin Cities. I worked in a municipal for about 2 or 3 years. I'm not quite, I think it was about 3 years. I worked there, and from there I went to a cooperative, and I spent time at a cooperative right in the Twin Cities, or right outside the Twin Cities, but we did a lot of work in the cities.
Okay.
And from there I went to XL Energy, and I spent a lot of time in around Minneapolis, and then I transferred back up into North Dakota. And for me, that was a great job. I have no complaints about any of it, any job that I had. It was, always missed being in the construction part.
Okay.
Because of the spring, I always got that itch to go, because you were starting out. You were going back on the crew, you're getting to pick your guys, you're getting the trucks, and you're going to travel. And I missed that. So the first chance that I got, I left XL and went back to contracting, and I never looked back after that.
When did you decide to, or when did you get on with like a union outfit? And
I got on when I went to the cooperative. I got on with a union. They made me union, and then I started learning more and more about it.
Sure.
And it made me really realize that people do, work for a non-union place. I was getting screamed at a lot and yelled at, and the money was decent. The bennies were but then I went to the union, and the money was good, and the benefits were good. And that's where I've been a union member for a long time now, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the best decisions I made.
You stick with distribution mainly?
I stick with distribution. I went to underground. That was my last forte, was underground. I did a lot of underground projects, and transmission just wasn't for me, because when I came up, we were climbing a lot of wood poles. A lot of 69 lines and 115. And after a while, it just was not something I was very interested in. I got tired of it quick. And with distribution, the working energized once I got into rubber gloves and sleeves.
Sure.
And got to work that, and got to work hot sticks. That to me right there was everything I wanted to do. And then the next challenge was underground, because a lot of places now are going underground. And once I had that opportunity to learn that, I want to be the best at it that I could be. And I kind of stuck with that wherever I could go. But I want to be a well-rounded lineman. I think transmission, that's a great thing. Everybody has a forte that they want to do. Some guys like transmission, some guys like distro, or some guys go to substations. I think we need, as linemen, to be well-rounded. We need to know it all. It helps in our careers, is what I believe. And underground, what I like about this trade is there's so many avenues that we can go.
Yeah.
You want to just do distro, you can. You can just do distro. But you can go underground. And underground, you can become a network guy or a lead splicer or just a URD guy. There's opportunities however you want to go, whatever you choose. Transmission, you could become a bare hand. You can work out of a helicopter. I mean, if you're into that stuff, that's those avenues that you can take, which is great about this career, or this whole line work. It's the opportunities that if you so choose, you can go do.
It's a dial, right? I've talked about this quite a bit. It's like, it's a dial you can turn on your opportunities in different areas you can go, but as well as like, if you want to bump up your finances, you want to save a little bit more, you can hit the road, hit the big projects and make the big money. But then if you want to like get home with the family a little bit more, start a family, and you want, flip to some district work, you can get on with a district somewhere and get a little closer to home and, a little more established and only work your 8 to 10 hours or take your overtime. And it's just like set, but you probably won't make as much money, but hey, it's giving you a better family life.
Correct.
Things like that. But it really is a dial that you can turn. It's when people get stuck in the middle and the dial doesn't work anymore. That's when you get off the rails. But
yeah, quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hang out on underground for a second, because I haven't to this point had a lot of guys on the show that have done much underground. And it's like one of those things out there that, so why underground? Why go to that? You talked a little bit about being well-rounded, but what's some pros? What are people missing by not giving it a try?
Again, it's becoming a well-rounded lineman. I mean, you can stay in one distro overhead. You can stay in that. But going to underground, now you get to experience that, that helps you become a well-rounded lineman. For me, going into the underground I didn't want to do it. I wasn't interested in it. I want to be the guy up in the distro and doing the hot work and with the rubber gloves, sleeves, hot sticks, whatever I could do. But the underground was a challenge itself, because I knew nothing. I didn't know much about it, because you can't see it. Like overhead, you look up, there it is. You can see everything that you're going to work on. In the underground, you can't. It was a whole different animal for me. But once I kind of got forced into doing it, and a couple jobs I didn't want to, but then when I got into it, it actually turned out to be a lot more enjoyable than what I thought. You got to be using your head all the time. And it was another challenge in the line work trade that you always want to be challenged. I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but after a while, you set one pole, you've set 1,000.
Sure.
You put a transformer up, you've probably done 1,000. You've strung 1,000 miles of overhead wire, and I had never done much underground. Put some elbows on here and there. And that was about it. But seeing a full project all the way through and knowing what you're doing was the challenge. And that's what I was looking for. I wanted to
be challenged.
Be challenged in this, because after a while, you got to worry about complacency seeping in on everything that you do, because you're like, you changed the pole yesterday, we're going to do the same thing day after day after day. Well, underground was such a challenge to learn, let alone do that right there. That caught my fancy, and I wanted to be the best at it that I could, and I stuck with it. And after a while, back home, there's not a lot of guys, overhead guys, that want to go do underground. And anytime an underground job, I'd jump on it. And it helped me in my career, because when guys were starting to get laid off, it would keep me working, because we can set a tent up, throw a heater in, and we can terminate transformers all day long, where guys are still sitting at home. I would be out working. And because I had underground experience, if I was on the books and they were looking for somebody that had overhead distro and underground, I would go out before people because I had that experience.
Yeah, you could do both sides.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And underground, after a while, totally fell in love with it. It's tough. It's meticulous. It can be enjoyable, because I enjoy working off kind of by myself and not having to worry about a whole crew. It'd be just me and another guy, apprentice, and sit there and work all day long and nobody bothering you. As long as you're being productive and safe, nobody bothered you.
It just comes back to like making yourself valuable, right?
Correct.
Like, how can you set yourself apart from the guy beside you? So yeah, even that's interesting, because I give that advice to young guys getting into the trade. I'm like, well, how are you better or different than the guy beside you? You see it in the classroom now. Like, why would anybody pick any of you over each other? So start separating yourself. Get a different diploma, a different like ticket, like whatever it is. Like, make yourself more valuable. But that scales up too, like into the trade as a journeyman. Make yourself more valuable.
Correct.
Like collecting these.
I tell these students now that we have, I tell them, try everything. If you don't know and they offer you that chance to try it, try it. You're going to go do transmission. You may fall in love with that, and that's what's all you want to do for the rest of your career. And that's great. That we need those. You go into overhead distro and you want to stay there, you can. But try it. Try everything. See what you really enjoy, because you got to remember, you're going to be doing this for quite a few years if you stick in the trade. You're going to be doing it for the rest of your life. I mean, you got to enjoy what you're doing. And take a chance. Take a chance at the underground. Take a chance at the overhead. Take a chance at the transmission. All it does is make you better. It makes us a very well-rounded lineman. And that's what the trade needs. But if you so choose to stick in one spot, that's great too, because that's what we need. And you'll be a professional at it. You know, one phrase we always throw around, craftsmanship. You know, we're craftsmen, and we got to care about what we do. If you don't like doing transmission, well, then it's probably not the thing for you. Find that niche in this trade that you love doing, and because you're going to do it for a long time.
And try things out. Don't be afraid to try things out.
Yeah.
I, again, talked about this with Duke yesterday. I've said it a few times on the show, is you got to try things. Like when we were kids, you pick things up, put things down. You try skateboarding, you try baseball, and it's all like 1 week you're skating, next week you're playing baseball. That sucks. I went on to something different. It's cool. Try football, try basketball, try whatever. Yeah. And we don't do it enough as adults, in our own ways as adults, whether that's in your hobbies or at work. Like, just try some things. Go try underground. It's not going to hurt anything. Yeah. It's going to make you better in the end. Even if you don't like it, it's still going to it'll teach you something. If you're open-minded enough, you'll learn something within there that you can apply to your next thing.
Correct.
You know?
No, I agree.
How long did you spend on the tools?
20. So I've been at my current position right now for the past 3.5 years. So I got out of the tools 3.5 years ago. So I've been in the trade just about 29 years. So 25 and a half years ago, or 25 and a half years I spent on the tools.
What made you think, hey, let's try this instructing or teaching? Or
So as I was coming up, when I kind of changed from yelling and screaming at apprentices to teaching them, I enjoyed teaching apprentices. Enjoyed going up in the air and teaching them and showing them what to do, what not to do. And right there, after I enjoyed it, because I always look forward to having new apprentices on the crew and teaching them, and then seeing them succeed as they move through their apprenticeship, seeing them succeed through there. For me, it was, boy, I'd sure like to try teaching, instructing. And it was kind of a, I applied at a lot of different places to be an instructor. I don't think I was quite ready to be an instructor at that time. I didn't feel I had enough years experience. And what would I offer to them?
In what way? Like years of experience on the tools? Or
yeah, on the tools.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you always self-doubt. Am I going to be good at this? It was another challenge, but Will I be good at it? Will I succeed at this? But I always enjoyed the teaching part, teaching new apprentices how to do line work. And that's what ultimately led me to becoming an instructor. And like I said, I applied at a lot of different places to become an instructor, but I was always too young. A lot of older guys always got it, which rightfully so. They probably should have because of the years of experience that they've had in the tools. And they had a lot more. I always feel they had a lot more to offer, which I don't begrudge any of that. I mean, it is what it is. But once the first opportunity that I got to become an instructor, I grabbed a hold of it, and here we are today.
I think it's all relative. Like when you break it down, when you're teaching a level of person that's like an apprentice, like it's almost the basics, right? So I feel like, you're a few years into the working on the tools, like you could already start teaching because it's just really just teaching the basics. And then it helps you get better as well because like when you teach, you learn, right?
Most definitely.
That's actually when you learn is when you teach.
You learn. Actually now, from becoming an instructor and teaching in the trade, for the trade, I've become a better lineman than I think I've ever have been because you forget about, in your apprenticeship, you forget about the weights and forces. You forget about all the basics. A lot of that kind of goes by the wayside. And now being in the instructor part and have to know it inside and out intimately, I become a way better lineman now than what I was.
Yeah.
And I feel like I still go back out on the tools tomorrow if I needed to and work. And I think I'd be way better lineman than before I started becoming an instructor.
My brother played minor pro ice hockey and smashed his ankle, kind of ended his like hockey career for the time being. So in that time, he decided to build an ice rink and training facility and start like training young people how to play the game and play the sport. And I remember him coming to me a few years after doing this, like being in it for a few years, probably 5-6 years. And he's like, man, I could go back and try out again and I'd be 10 times better than I was back then now, just from learning to teach these guys. One, he was on the ice all day, shooting, stick handling, showing drills. So becoming better through teaching these young guys. He was becoming better at his craft. And he always said, like, I could quit this right now. I could go back and try out and I could probably make the NHL. No, like full confidence. But, back then wasn't quite grinding it out, just didn't have that. But through teaching, learned a lot himself. So it's the same thing.
I think it's the focus.
Yeah.
I mean, as we start in this career, our main goal is to become a journeyman. From an apprentice up, your goal is to become a journeyman. Then from there, you're looking to become a foreman. It's the focus. I think we're so focused on just our tasks at hand for that day, whereas now being an instructor, we may forget things, or we may, how do I say it? We may overlook certain details that we probably shouldn't. But now becoming an instructor, you have to account for all of that. You have to be able to teach all aspects from A to Z, all the way through there, everything that they need to know to be successful in their careers as they move forward. And I think that they're now going back in the tools, having that experience, and there wouldn't be things I would push aside or forget or this because it's so fresh in my mind now. I think by far it's made me way better lineman than what I think I would have been if I would have just stayed in the tools.
What does good leadership look like to you?
That's a tough question. I'd like to say I'm a good leader, but I really don't know if I'm a great leader or a good leader. I'd like to think that I'm a leader, but it's you got to have some compassion for the guys that you're working with, and you got to enjoy the trade that you're in. You got to know your trade. You can't really lead people if you don't know what you're doing.
Sure. You
got to have the knowledge, and so a good leader would be having the knowledge of the craft that they're trying to lead somebody in, would be the answer.
And be willing to like get out there and do it with them.
Do it with them.
Like get in the trenches or get dirty. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. When you finally found the Lazy Q as a place to start instructing and teaching it, what did you start with?
I started in the underground. I'd gone down to some training. I was working for a Quanta company, and I'd been asking for some training. And they said, hey, have you ever heard of the Lazy Q? I had never heard of the Lazy Q. And they said, we're going to send you down there for 2 weeks. And I went down there. I went to the underground school for a 2-week class. And when I got there, I mean, if nobody has stepped foot on Lazy Q, you got to go see it firsthand for yourself. I mean, I watched the video after they told me I was going to Lazy Q. I went online and I YouTubed and I saw the video. And that video is a good video, but it doesn't do justice to what the ranch really is. To go there and see it firsthand was unreal. I mean, to see a training facility, a ranch training facility that was dedicated just to linemen was unreal. And then the level of instruction that I got from the instructors on the underground. When I walked out of there, they made me 3 times the 3 times the underground. I thought I was doing everything right in underground, but they made me 3 times better when I walked out of there. They made me realize a lot of things that I was doing wasn't right. I was doing things for productivity, not for longevity.
Sure.
And after that, I changed the way I did my underground, and it made me better. And when I left there, I told my apprentice, I said, one day I'd like to go back there and be an instructor. And a couple years later, I run into one of the old instructors. He came out and visited me out on a crew. And I said, hey, get me hired with you. A couple of weeks later, I sent a resume in, and a month later, I'm down at the Lazy Q interviewing. And when I flew back home, they called me up and said, do you want a job? And I said, yes, I do. And I started out with the underground. I did underground for about 6-7 months. And then they transferred me over into the overhead. And I've been with the overhead. And now this will be my start of my 6th class.
Yeah, that was just from our time there. Like, it's such a cool place. Like you said, the video could actually be updated now. There's a lot of new stuff there, like with the high voltage training,
correct,
or testing facility, and just all the extra stuff they've put up there. The line school's grown immensely in the last year. It's wild. It's a really, really unique place. There's just nothing like it on planet Earth. Like just lineman Disneyland, right?
Correct.
The ability to train in a controlled environment like they have. And I know some people listening that have been to the Lazy Q will probably think, like there's a few aspects of it, like staying in a camp setting, not being able to leave, those sorts of things that are kind of like blockers for some guys. But if you can just get past those things and realize the heart of it all is to make you a better tradesman and a better craftsman, and they pour everything into it. So to be able to control your environment, 100% control your environment, and to train on any structure, wire type, like underground, overhead, substation, like all of it, it's pretty special. There's just nothing else like it.
Correct. And everything that they offer, I mean, it's unreal. Yeah. And I want to be a part of that. That's why when they offered me the position, that's why I jumped at it, to be a part of that. And here I am still.
What do you like or dislike about training youth? Like, I call them youth, but some of them are almost my age, almost our age, that come through there. But like youth meaning youthful in the industry, like new to the industry. What I was telling Duke yesterday was I like training linemen. That was kind of fun for the moment or two that I spent doing it. But like linemen are linemen. They are set in their ways. It's hard to get anything new through a lineman's thick skull. But with the youth, like they're sponges for the most part, they want to learn. They're desperate to learn. They want to be in the industry. Once they found this, they, like us, when we found it, it's the greatest thing in the world. And they just want to do it so bad. That's just so much more rewarding.
It is. And that's why I got into when I first went over to the overhead to train, it was difficult because I had come from the underground where we trained journeymen. and training journeymen as to students, guys that have never done the trade and really don't know what the trade is coming in, it's totally two different animals. I mean, you're just polishing up a journeyman. You're helping them become better. With these new students, you got to break that down into the basics. And even at times, I mean, your vocabulary from being a lineman that we use out in the field, you got to get rid of that. I mean, there's guys that have no clue what a bucket truck is, what a digger truck is. They don't even know how to run. Some guys don't even know how to run a shovel, when they get there.
Yeah.
And they
use a hammer.
Yeah. A hammer, 100%, or a ruler.
Yeah.
Everybody says they know how to run read a ruler. That's not always the case, but it's being able to break all that down and teach it to them and see that they get it. That's got to be the most rewarding. And then seeing at the very end when they get out of the line school and they get into the trade and seeing them be successful. That's the thing that has kept me there for these last 6 classes.
Yeah,
is seeing that, and because you get phone calls from these guys, and some are thankful. For me, some guys like me, some guys don't. I'm not going to apologize if guys didn't like me when I was there. I'm rough.
That's life.
I say what I want.
Yeah.
I may not use the best language at times, and I'm gonna chew their ass if they're doing something wrong. I'm sorry, but it's pretty tame from ash tunes that you're gonna get from me to what you're gonna get out there. But the ultimate goal is to make them the best apprentice when they get out of here, the best apprentice out there, so they don't embarrass themselves in the trade. They know what they're getting themselves into, and if they don't, they weren't listening. That, or they weren't paying attention, or they really didn't care what I had to say. But it is what it is. I can't make these guys, how do I say it? Can't make them want to learn.
Yeah.
But I want everyone that starts in our program to be successful. I want them all to graduate. Not all of them are. Not all of these guys are going to make it through our class. That's just the facts of life. Whether they make the decision for themselves or we have to make the decision for them, we will. Whether it's academic. But it's not on us. It's not that we're looking to get rid of anybody or we're looking to kick people out. It's they're getting themselves asked to leave, or because they're failing academics, or they're not passing the physical outside the climbing part, or there's 100 different things but that's their choice.
Yeah.
You get what you put into it. It's just like the line trade. I mean, I could have been just a shitbag on the side of the road and just done mediocre work. Who the hell would want to work with me? My reputation, or our reputation in the trade, is all we have. I didn't want to go to that next job and my name already there saying, oh, he's a shitbag. Didn't want that at all. That's why we busted our asses and we worked hard, because if we left, we went to the next company, you didn't want a bad reputation. You wanted a good reputation. In the trade, that's what everybody wants. We want a good reputation. We want to be known as, hey, I want to work with that guy, or hey, I want that guy on my crew. That's what we want. Ultimately, I don't want to be that guy where I'm pulling up to the job and they go, oh shit, here's this D-bag. I don't want that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to go and they're like, hey, want you on my crew. And hopefully everybody that comes through or had come through the Lazy Q, that's what they want. That's what they're striving for. It's because our reputations are all we have in this trade.
This is what I've been trying to get, even through this podcast, and get people to understand is opportunities exist out there, but there's a direct relationship between opportunities and work. And the opportunities exist. They're everywhere. But are you putting in the work to create that opportunity, for starters, and then working during that opportunity? You know what I mean? Just working hard to get what you want. They come to me and they're like, I can't find a job anywhere. Nobody will hire me. What do I do? Where do I go? How do I get started? I've been trying to get started for so long. I got my name on the books. Nothing's happening. It's what else are you doing?
Correct.
Are you being persistent? Are you working your butt off? Are you willing to travel? Not just willing to travel, are you traveling? Like, are you paying for that on your own dime and going to a place that could provide an opportunity, potential opportunity, with no expectation of an opportunity even being there, but just trying? Like, I talked to a young female lineman from Canada, Mackenzie. Mackenzie would go to line school, and in this line school, she had no guarantee of a job. She didn't have a job after this. This was just like a pay your own way kind of line school. She finally got into it. So she gets into it, and instead of going drinking at night with everyone else, the guys from the line school, she would take the train to the city and go to a networking event. Pick a utility networking, a conference. So you just try to find where these were, find a way in, find somebody on social media that would like bring her along, get her a pass and get there so she could talk to people to find a job. She ended up straight out of school, ended up on a big utility in Canada because of doing that. She had to work for that. It wasn't just like, okay, I'm done. Like,
give me a job.
Yeah. Like, you got to do things. You
got to sacrifice.
You
have to sacrifice in this trade. If you want to be successful in anything that you do in this trade, you got to sacrifice. I mean, it's not going to get handed to you. It isn't. You want to be the best, you got to sacrifice. And yeah, sometimes it comes at a personal loss, but that's part of the trade. I mean, what's the old saying? What's good for your personal life isn't good for your professional life, and what's good for your professional life isn't good for your personal life. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're away from home. We travel.
Yeah.
We travel all over the place. We could be gone for months at a time, but that's part of the line work. I mean, you have to sacrifice, especially with these young guys getting into it. They say they want to travel. Well, how bad do you want to travel? Because you got to sacrifice that time.
Yeah.
You're going to miss birthdays. You're going to miss Christmases. You're going to miss Thanksgivings. You're going to miss anniversaries. You're going to miss important stuff. But do you want to become a journeyman? Do you want to become a respected person in the trade? Yeah, you got to sacrifice that. I mean,
or it's the other way, right?
Yeah,
or
correct.
It's like, I don't want to sacrifice those things, so I'm going to choose to sacrifice the big dollar jobs or not do big transmission, not work with helicopters, and just pick a district job where, you know.
And then good luck getting in there.
Yeah.
Because how many other guys are sitting in line, they want the exact same job. And what sets you apart from them for that? And what are you going to do? Sit at home? Sit at home and not do anything? And I guess that's the thing now. I never said no. I never said no to anything.
Yeah.
Wherever they had to send me, I never said no. Go here, go there, go there. Yeah, I stayed within a local or state of Minnesota, but wherever they needed me, that's where I went. Mm-hmm. Were there times I was unhappy about it? Oh shit, yeah. Of course you're going to be. You're jumping from one crew, you're getting sent up to another crew to help out. Yeah, you don't want that because you want to stay with your buddies, your crew. But you got to sacrifice that. You got to travel. Mm-hmm. You got to go that 10 hours or 6 hours or whatever. Get middle of the night. If you want to stay home Sunday, you can travel at noon, get there, get a hotel, and be to work early in the morning. But if you want to stay with your friends and family, getting up at midnight, driving 6 hours to get to the job, that's sacrifice.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the times that I've sacrificed to stay home a little bit later with family and friends, got up at 11 o'clock, midnight, was on the road, drove all night long to be to work, and then work a full day. You know, it's sacrifice. It's one of the things in this trade you have to do. If you don't, this ain't the job for you.
Yeah.
We need people that cook at McDonald's. We need people to wash dishes. We need people to do other jobs. I mean, there's other jobs for you where you don't have to sacrifice that much. But this job, this career, you need to sacrifice as much as you can to become successful in it. And anybody that doesn't realize that, this probably isn't the trade for you. Don't do it. You don't, because it's some of the best work you're ever going to do, and it's some of the toughest work you're ever going to do, and it's also some of the most heartbreakingest work you're going to do because it's a thankless job.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you go to storms. I mean, you're working long hours, but you're helping people. And I think a lot of people get wrapped up into that money. I mean, don't get me wrong, money is important. It pays our bills and it affords us to do things. But when we go out on storms, I mean, thousands, millions of people are out of power.
Yeah.
And you're helping. You're helping put that power on. You're making people's lives better. And I think a lot of people get away from that and they just consider money, money, money. I mean, I got in the trade for money. I mean, if my buddy hadn't shown me the money that he was making and he can afford a brand new pickup, I would have never gotten into the trade. I would have never even been interested in getting in the trade because I had no clue what a lineman did. This was before the internet where I couldn't go online and look up what a lineman did. You know, I didn't have a clue what a lineman did when I went to line school. But I did it for the money. Is there anything wrong with that? Not a bit. Not a bit. But once I got into it, it's the sacrifice. You got to sacrifice to become that journeyman, become that foreman. Whatever is out that GF, you got to sacrifice. I mean, it's simple.
Yeah.
But you hear all these people, oh, I'll travel. Okay, when it comes time to travel, guys don't want to travel. Or they don't realize how much traveling this really is. But once you become a journeyman, you can travel all over the United States and work and see so much. It's going to afford you to see the country that you ain't been part of and still making money.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make great money by doing it. And
nobody can take that from you, and you'll never really be without work.
Correct.
You know, maybe in your own little local community, you might be without some work for a while, but man, the way it's going and looking at this career, like if this industry can survive a global pandemic and keep on trucking through something like that, like, man, I didn't skip a beat through the pandemic. You know, none of us did.
None of us did. No.
And where a lot of industries were, you know,
shut
pretty hard up.
Yeah.
So we've got lots to be grateful for
heck
that.
Yeah.
But that's what this industry can afford somebody. The Quanta Electrical Line Worker program that you're a part of now, talk a little bit about, because I get the question a lot, you know, like everyone out there thinks that it's a regular line school, you know, and they relate it to like just a regular line school. So let's separate that a little bit and talk to why it's not just a regular line school. What sets it apart?
Okay. Our line school is, it's 16 weeks. You're going to have to put 16 weeks. You'll go home a couple times for about a week. And so basically it's 14 weeks. It's accelerated program. Just because you come to the Lazy Q line school does not mean you're going to graduate. Just because you show up doesn't mean you're going to make it through.
And how do you even get into it?
You have to work for an operating unit that's a Quanta-owned operating unit, and you have to be sponsored from somebody within your division to come down to the Lazy Q or the VEEP program. The VEEP program is Veteran
Electrical Entry Program.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we bring in a lot of veterans, the guys that are just getting out of the military or have been out of the military for a while, and they're looking to get into line work. So they'll come to us, and we'll put them through this 14-week accelerated program, and there's no guarantees that they're going to make it through. Just because you come down to the Lazy Q does not mean you're going to make it through.
Yeah.
You're not paying. These people that are accepted here are not paying for.
So they don't pay to come to the school.
They don't pay to come to the school.
So they're actually like sponsored by the operating unit or sponsored by the VEEP program.
VEEP along with NICA, and with that, they're coming down there and they're getting a lot of incentives to be there, where a basic line school you're paying for.
Gotcha.
You know, it's not, well, I'm going to show up when I want and I'm going to go do this and I'm going to run downtown and I'm going to. No, you're on the ranch. You're going to be on the ranch for that period of time, and you're there to learn. You're getting accelerated program, 16 weeks. We're putting you out to a JATCs, and they're gonna put you where they need you.
And you're like paid to go there,
you're
right?
Paid to go there.
Paid while you're there for the veterans. Well, for everybody.
For all of them, because you come from yep. So you pay. You're getting room and board. You're getting tools. You're getting books. You're getting paid to be there. So your job for that 16 weeks is to learn how to become a lineman.
And then pretty much direct interview, right?
Direct interviews throughout the United States. There's a possibility, depending upon how you do in their boot camps, you could come out as a first step. You come out as a second step. I think there's a few that you can possibly, few JATCs that if you really excel, you can possibly come out as a third step, get placed as a third step. how many other places can do that? We'll place you in at work. You're going to go to work for a Quanta company.
And then, for the guys that are already sponsored by a Quanta company,
they're going to go back to their operating company. And then our veterans, we will find them a job in conjunction with the JATCs, we will find them a job at a Quanta company. And they'll go to work for a Quanta company. And that sets us apart from any line school, because I went to line school.
Sure.
They didn't find me a job. They shook my hand at the end. And I mean, don't get me wrong, great program. I would recommend that Bismarck State College electrical line worker program to anybody. It was a great program. I'm glad I went through it. But if I would have known that there was something like this existed back then, I would have done everything in my power to be able to go to this program.
Yeah.
Because of that, it's how many places do you get paid to be there? How many places do you get free tools? How many places do you get free books? You get room and board. You get all that.
What was so rewarding for me was to just see people find a career path that like felt meaningful to them. Like they were excited about it. And then the only reason they found it was like something you did, something you created to show them the way there. They did the work, they got approved, they got accepted, they're in the course. And then the ones that stuck it out, they loved it, they'd excelled in it, they're happy to do it, and then they're spit out into the world of contracting. And now they're working as an apprentice and they're loving it. Their family life's changed, their life's changed, especially for those veterans. Like, that was so special to see somebody who's gone overseas, served, their country, be able to find a career that felt like it was still like of service. Because line work's like that. Like you mentioned storms, it's a real, like, it's almost a service, like you go into these communities as everyone's leaving these communities, and you hang out when the weather's at its worst just to turn around and fix all the stuff that falls down. You're watching it fall down from the inside, sitting in a truck, no food, nothing to drink, just sitting there waiting for shit to fall down and then go fix it for these people. And it's of service, right? Whether it's that or whether it's, building communities. That's kind of what it's all about.
A lot of the veterans, they're looking for that, what they had in the military. They're looking for that brotherhood. And this is a trade. Once you get into it, you're part of a brotherhood, whether you like it or not. The crews that you get onto, if you mesh well with your crewmates, that's becomes your second family, because you're going to spend more time with them than you are with your family. And you become close to these guys. And so anybody coming out that's a veteran, or that's what you're going to get. And plus, a lot of these guys have spent their career, they've been outside their whole career. They know they don't want to go to an office job. So they come in, but they're bringing that, the veterans are bringing that they already have life experience. They already have all that. They know, they're determined to make it through once they start that. They're determined to make it through because this is what they're looking for. They want to be outside. They want to help the communities. They want that brotherhood that they had in the military. And this trade offers all that. It checks all the boxes for them.
Now, what's your favorite part about what you do now?
My favorite part is I enjoy teaching. I enjoy being in a classroom. I had you talk to me 3 years ago. Yeah, scared shitless. I couldn't teach.
I did talk to you 3 years ago.
you were there. I could not teach a class to save my life. I was so bad at it because I was nervous to get in front of a group of 20 guys at that time, 20, 30 guys at that time. I didn't believe in myself enough that I knew enough about line work, even being in the trade for as long as I had, that I could train these students. So that made me nervous. And I always wanted to make sure that I never told them something that was wrong, but I'm a human being and I make mistakes. We all do. So that led into, as you know, it always led back into discussion. If we did say something wrong, it let them know, hey, we're fallible. We make mistakes too. And it gave us a discussion point in our classes. And that first year, or that first set class, you were there. We struggled. But we got better. And I've steadily gotten better. I got to the point now where I like being inside and I like teaching the inside classes. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy being outside and watching the guys climb and stuff. But, over the years, being on the tools and climbing as long as I had, because I climbed right up until, the 26th year. I climbed, but bad knee after a while it starts to mess with your shoulders, your hips, your arms, and aches and pains, and constantly being injured. You're still working.
Sure.
It's taken its toll on me now, where I don't do much climbing. Well, now the position that I have, if I don't want to climb with the guys, I don't need to. I don't, but it's still nice to be out there and help them learn how to climb and see them progress through that. But my favorite is now being in the classroom, teaching the classroom.
Super
because
cool.
You have that one-on-one with 30 guys.
Yep.
You have that one-on-one with them, and then you get to go later for the other 30 or 35 or whatever it is. You get that one-on-one with them.
What I don't think that this is what we figured out on our own. And I think that schools like Lazy Q or just like any real organization out there, this is what they don't teach you in school is how to become a great communicator. They don't teach communication skills. They don't teach you about your body language, your tone, your voice, when to enunciate, when not to enunciate, how to be comfortable in front of an audience, how to use your hands like to help communicate what you're trying to say. It's all important stuff that I think would help instructors. If we just like scale it right back down to instructors, that would have super helped me, getting up in front, because I was the same way, getting up in front of 30 people, you freeze. Even if you know the content, you just like freeze up because you think you're going to sound like an idiot, or you're going to say something dumb, or you're not going to be able to articulate what you're trying to say properly. So I think it would benefit, if anyone out there has the ability to change this, I think it would benefit to run instructors through communication classes, man.
Oh, most definitely.
I think it's huge.
Most definitely. As I came through high school and college, I steered away from speech, anything that had to get up in front of people. If you would have asked me years ago if I'd see myself doing what I'm doing today, I'd have said, hell no. No.
What, you being on a podcast?
Even being on a podcast. I've said no to this podcast umpteen times, but here I am today on this.
You've changed. I'm proud of you.
Well, I appreciate it, but I still not big happy about that I'm here doing this, but I made a promise, and I don't like breaking my promises, so here I am today, living up to my promise.
Heck yeah.
So,
man of your word. I love it.
But the communication,
Yeah.
That's something, whether you take a communication class or not, it would help out greatly, but you have to find your own voice. You have to find what works for you in a classroom. You have to find how to do it, your style. It's basically your style. And I developed a style that, when I first started teaching, as you know, we always had other instructors sitting in the back, or we had David Ball sitting in the back. Well, that just made me more nervous because I didn't want to hear the criticism. I didn't want to hear how poorly I did or this or that. So it made me twice as nervous. And after a while, somebody can tell you how to teach or tell you a style, but it's got to be your style. Yeah. And I developed the style that ultimately has worked for me, and it's worked for many classes now, and it's made me more comfortable. I try to joke around with them, get them interested, and then I hammer them with content. But you always got to be looking body. You always got to be looking at body language. If you start seeing guys' eyes droop, or you see more than one guy getting up, going to the bathroom, you're losing them.
Yeah.
Take a break. Come back. Hit them with a funny story. I like telling stories about the line trade. Stuff that happened to me. Something that's funny where I made a mistake or
What's your go-to?
I don't have a go-to. It's kind of whatever I think about at that point. One thing I like to do, I teach one of the very first classes. So when they come in, we always have like third-party OSHA 10 and some other training that we put them through. Well, then the very first class I like to take, and my very first thing is I have them get up. All the students get up one at a time and tell me why they really got into line work. What's the real reason? I don't want to hear the interview stuff. I don't want to hear because of the brotherhood and I love working out. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear the real reason. You doing it for money? You doing it for this? Some of the answers you get are hilarious, but it forces them to get up, say their name, where they're from. It gets them used to. It gets them with their group of 35 guys. It gets them comfortable standing up, saying who they are, what they do, or where they're from, and why they got into it. It helps them get to know their fellow classmates. And yes, my favorite thing is I love teasing them, making fun of them. Because we got guys that are from Tennessee. They may talk a little different than I do. They say I have an accent. I say they do. And, I enjoy poking fun at some of them. The real serious ones, you got to know your crowd. You got to know the people that you're poking fun at, or you're teasing, or you got to really watch that. But overall, it's a good icebreaker. They get to know me, I get to know them, and then I hit the content. So I try to always come in with a little story or get them laughing somehow, and then hit them with content, and then go through it. And we've developed. It's just like anything, just like the line trade. You develop. You got to do it. You got to do it, and you develop your own style of how you do things. In this trade, you know it as well as I do. There's 1,000 different ways to do everything.
Sure.
It's just because I do it this way doesn't mean you're going to do it the same way. And that's how teaching is. It's as long as we can get them engaged and connected with what we're teaching. And that right there. Some classes are harder than others to get them engaged, because all these classes are different. They're never the same. Different personalities. And that's the one thing is a lot of schools, they always, when you're younger, they always try to change your personalities. We're not trying to do that. Their personalities they're already set. We're here just to make them good or great apprentices.
Sure.
We're not making journeymen. We're making great apprentices. Yeah. Something that they can go out and be fully prepared to do, where they're not going to be embarrassed going, I've never seen that. I don't know. Because that right there that's a killer when you get on a crew. I don't know. I've never been taught that. I don't know what you're talking about. We want to try prepare them as much as possible for everything they may face. And to get that engagement from them, you have to get them engaged. You have to get them willing to learn. And every class is different. And every personality is different. So the way I teach you may be different from the way I teach that person. But you got to know their personalities so where you can teach both of you at the same time. And that, from the very first class I ever taught, I never even thought of that till now. You have to know the personalities of the guys that you're teaching. Yep. And sometimes it gets difficult because you have 70 guys, 75 guys. It's a lot of guys. I don't know most of their names until about week 5.
Yeah, and you gotta figure that stuff out quick too, right? Or you're forced to figure it out quick. Correct. Because,
I tell guys, if I know your name in the first 2 weeks, it's probably the reason I'm watching you, and I'm thinking about you're probably not made for this trade. I'm probably going to ask you to leave if I know your name in the first 2 weeks, because that's probably not a good thing.
That's good.
And especially if my instructors know who you are in the first 2 weeks, because you're doing something you probably shouldn't have been doing, or you're doing something, going down a road you don't want to be going down. Yeah. You're either really good or really shitty. So it's probably really shitty since you don't know what you're doing. So. Correct. And so it's not a good thing to know their name. I always tell them that. But we try to learn all their names. But it takes a while before you learn everybody's name. But then after that, it becomes as much as you don't want to, you get close, because you're with these guys 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. You get close to them. You know their names, you know their personalities, you know the guys you can joke with, you know the guys that are serious, you know the guys that are more academic, but you help them on the outside physical stuff. Then you got guys that are more physical. Yeah. You have to help with the academic. I mean, it's that challenge. Every day it's a different challenge. And that's what has kept me here for 6 classes. Mm-hmm. Is that constant challenge. I mean, I could have just stayed and been a lineman on the tools and been happy. No responsibilities, just being told what to do. And that's not for me. It wasn't for me. That's why I chose underground, or I chose distribution. I chose underground. I chose now instructing, is because it's a challenge. It's another challenge in the line trade. I mean, anybody that's doing it, I suggest, if you think you'd be good at being an instructor, reach out. You want a shot at being an instructor, we're always looking. Yeah. We're always looking for more instructors.
Yeah, it's a growing program, so that's one of the things you are constantly looking. Yeah, I've steered a few people that have asked me questions about lazy Q and instructing your way. A couple of them have stuck. A couple of them have chosen another path. But it's a good place to work.
It's rewarding.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm doing it is I'm giving back.
Yeah.
This trade has given me a lot. It, just like anything, it's taken some stuff away from me.
Yeah.
But overall, it's given me a lot. It's provided me with a home, vehicle, motorcycle. It's provided me with money. I've never had to worry about money because of the trade. It's provided me with a lot. And now I'm nearing the end of my career. I feel I got another 10, 12 years left in me. That why not do this? I'm giving back to the trade that has given me so much.
Yep.
So for me, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah. From, being in somewhat of a confined space by, being on lazy Q all the time, being around students, because you're not only around them during the day, but you're eating and your barracks are close and all that sort of stuff. So, and then throughout your line career, just mental health's been a huge thing talked about within the industry for good reason. With the way we came through the pandemic, it's kind of escalated people talking about it and dealing with it in different various ways. What's some good advice you got from somebody who's been through a good chunk of his career with dealing with mental health? What's some escapes you do or some things you do to decompress or?
Well, first of all, don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed of if you have depression or if you have anxiety. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't let that be a hindrance to you. If you have to tell people, don't be ashamed to tell them. Don't be ashamed of it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. You'd be surprised at the amount of people that suffer from some form of depression or some form of anxiety in this trade. Because we're constantly put in, we work with high voltage. We work with energized lines. At any given time, we could get hurt. We're putting ourselves into these positions while we're working. It's no different from, you walk out your door, you get hit by a car and killed. But we choose to go do these dangerous things. So don't think you're the only one suffering from any type of mental depression or anxiety. I can guarantee there's a lot more people out in this trade that never say anything than the ones that do.
Yeah.
It's gotten bigger, and it is an issue that needs to be addressed more and more. I don't think it's being addressed enough. It is rampant.
What do you like to do to deal with it?
Me, for myself,
versus it's easy to go to a bottle or go to
exactly
something like that. But what do you do?
What do I do? I don't go to the bottle anymore. I used to drink a lot back in the day, but that was with your crewmates and you were having fun. You could put it as that. It was, you were out on the road and you got nothing else to do. What's the closest place? It's to the bar, and that's the easiest thing to go do. And when I started getting depressed, I'd just drink a lot more. But I always had a damn good time. I had a lot of fun, but it never helped. The thing that I do now is I have to get away. I have to get away from because you're around people 24 hours a day, or you feel like you're around people 24 hours a day, that I just need to get away from everybody and decompress by myself. One of the things I like to do, I like to read books. I like to just sit back in quiet and read books. That's one of the things that just helps me decompress. It's not that I'm trying to be antisocial. It's just at time, for the people around me's sake and my sake, if I can't get away from them, I'm going to be a complete asshole, because I'm getting to that mental breaking point where I don't want to be, and nobody wants to be around me on that, especially dealing with all the students. So I like to get away and just spend some time by myself and read a book, kick back, read a book. That helps me so much. Or just listen to music, put some headphones on, and just listen to some music and just decompress for a while. That's the things that help me quite a bit. Or hunting. So when I get a chance to go hunting, I like going alone. I like going off hunting by myself.
Kind of hunting?
Turkeys.
Turkeys.
Love turkey hunting. Turkey and coyotes. Those are my two favorite. I can spend hours and days doing that, and just being out there by yourself. It's not even about killing anything. It's just being out there and enjoying nature and being a part of all that. That's a huge decompress for me.
For sure.
And find something that you enjoy doing and do it. decompress, get away from everybody, and just another thing. Love motorcycles. Jump on the motorcycle. Just if I got time, jump on the motorcycle and just disappear for a couple days. I don't know where I'm going. Just go. And I know I got to come back at some point because I got to go back to work. But just being off on the road, nothing's better than that.
Bring your motorcycle to Texas?
I have not brought my motorcycle to Texas. I don't get to ride it as much as I like to, but whenever I get a chance, I'm on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
But just getting away, decompress, because you start fresh every day. Yep. And that's one of the things that, as I've grown older now, I've looked at, hey, my apprentices or these guys mess up and I got to chew on ass today. Tomorrow's another day. Mm-hmm. Whatever happened yesterday is yesterday. That's the past. We're always trying to move forward.
For sure.
I'm not going to hold them on a mistake that they made, because here at the line school, where the lazy Q, if they make a mistake, this is where we want them to make a mistake. This is the time to make a mistake, to learn from. Well, there's no point in jumping on their throat day after day after day. They did it. We corrected it. Let's move forward. Mm-hmm. And with this accelerated program, that's the things that we have to do. We have to move forward each and every day. And just thinking about that, always move forward. Never look at, I don't worry about what happened in the past. Because it's the past. I can't change it.
No. No point.
No point.
No point.
Own up to it. This trade has offered me I've had a lot of fun, a lot of good times, more good times than bad. And I'm gruff. I say a lot of bad words. Pretty straightforward, to the point. But line trade's made me that way. This is a cutthroat. Not just a hard, it's a cutthroat. Depends upon where you come from. It's a cutthroat industry. That saying, knowledge is power. There's a lot of foremen out there and there's a lot of linemen out there that are going to withhold knowledge from you because they're afraid that you're trying to take their job or this or that. But this knowledge you have to share that with everybody. You need to, any knowledge that you have, it's your duty to share it with your apprentice, share it with your journeyman, and vice versa. That's the only way the line trade's going to get better and better. And the way we treat our apprentices, that's, at some point, that's got to change. But it's not going to change in my lifetime, but it's going to change every class, how they get treated when they get out there and they become journeymen. They have to change it. Yep. Not yell and scream and treat
because they're going to have a new generation.
Correct.
Like, who knows what that generation's going to look like for them to train. They're going to deal with they're going to have their own struggles teaching the next generation.
Correct. Yeah. So it's everything we do. Like I say, every decision we make, good or bad, has consequences. Everything. And that's the thing that I tell these guys. If you have I can't, and that's in your vocabulary, line work isn't for you. Mm-hmm. Don't even bother, because in this trade, you have to try everything. If you've never even tried it and you say, I can't, this isn't for you, because there's not very many linemen that I know that say, I can't. I've never heard any lineman ever say, I can't. But if they do say, I can't do that, well, tell me why. They can give me a good reason. If they're scared or they've never done it before and they don't quite know, hey, that's a different story. Okay, but just to say, no, I can't do that without ever trying, that's probably in for you. So you got to have a can-do attitude when it comes to doing line work.
Love it, Don. I got a few closing questions that I kind of ask everybody. Mm-hmm. So let's run through them. You can answer them one sentence, one word, whatever you want. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would that?
Don't do line work.
Don't do line work.
Nope. Go be a.
All of this
go be a doctor or a lawyer.
You think you had it in you to be a doctor or a lawyer?
No, I probably didn't have the smarts, but I tell you what, don't get me wrong. It's a great trade. It is. I got no complaints about it, but if you're in for money, go be a doctor or a lawyer. Shit sakes.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Anywhere in the world, huh? I spent some time down in Cape Town, South Africa, and I tell you what, that's beautiful.
Dang.
If you've never been, I tell you, go. It's a beautiful. You're right on the ocean, right there. It's beautiful. I'd probably say that if I ever had it. Yeah, I'd say that. Cape
Very
Town.
cool. That's kind of cool. If you could have coffee with one historical figure, who would it be?
Nah, no
Pass
idea.
on that one.
Yeah, pass on that one.
I've had a few. Just had Ronald Reagan. I can't remember the other ones.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to
that's
sit with any
interesting.
politicians.
What's the most valuable tool in a lineman's kit?
Knowledge. You carry that with you. Nobody can take it away from you.
Sure. Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Listen to the old timers. They know better. They know what they're talking about. I wish I would have done it.
And
Listen to the old timers.
damn, that's a good one. That's a good one to end on. Well, appreciate you, Don. Thanks for doing this finally.
Yep, not a problem.
And,
Figured I had to.
one more thing, if you know what the numbers are, what the addresses are, email address or some way to get a hold of somebody at the Lazy Q to talk about the Line School program or the website, you know what those are? I can tag them on after.
Please take them. Yeah, please
sure.
take them.
Sure.
I would be given. I'd be
The one I do know for the vets out there is the Veteran Electrical Entry Program.
Correct.
It's into veep.com. That's in number 2 veep.com. If you want info on the veteran program. But other than that, thanks for listening.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, if I could ask one favor from you, it's that you like, subscribe, follow, all of those good things, whether it's YouTube or audio platforms you listen to this on. Make sure you're subscribed. It does a lot for us. We want to get this out there. We want to get our reach out there. We want to find more people in the industry and get this stuff in front of them. So anyway, that's the favor I asked for you. Hope you enjoyed the episode with Don Muzzy. We'll see you in the next one.